Shipmates around the world from Washington, D.C. to the west coast of the United States, Hawaii, Guam, Japan, Italy, Germany, Spain, and especially all those currently underway at sea. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Commander Dave Hecht, and welcome to another MyNavy HR Town Hall with the Chief of Naval Personnel, Vice Admiral John Nall, and always at his side, Fleet Master Chief Wes Koshofer. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Dave, great to be here with my shipmate, Fleet Koshofer. And I got to tell you, somebody that all of you are lucky to have as your Fleet Master Chief. It is just great to be here, Dave.
Great. Well, great to have both of you here today. We're coming to you live from Defense Media Activities Studios at Fort Meade. And for the next 90 minutes, CNP and Fleet K will be answering your questions. We're taking those questions from our live studio audience. Thunderous applause from the live studio audience. Thank you for being here. And we also have sailors that are standing by live in Norfolk. Wow. Sailors around the world have also submitted their questions on video.
Wait a minute, go back, Dave. Let's go back to the Norfolk shot and let's clap for the sailors on the water.
Well, we'll clap for them as well. There we go.
Like a beautiful day down there.
Absolutely, but it's not too late for you to join in. So from time to time, we'll be checking in with our feedback desk in the social media lounge to hear your Facebook comments and on what CNP and Fleet K have had to say, and we'll be taking some of your questions live from Facebook. But before we get things kicked off with your questions and your comments, CNP and Fleet, is there anything that you would like to say before we begin?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. And shipmates, just let me say, it's it's great to be here with all of you. And then it's also great to have all of our shipmates from the fleet and around the world that are with us. And I know that for some, it's not always easy to work that into your schedule. We really appreciate your time in doing it. Let me just say thanks up front to you for your service and sacrifice. It's been a hard year, there is no doubt. The last time we had a town hall was in November of 2020. And if you think back for a minute about what the world was like just 7 months ago, we have come a long, long way in those 7 months. Make no mistake, gang, we are defeating COVID-19, and we and you have done it because of your hard work, because of taking care of yourself and your shipmates and your families. So thank you. It's pretty nice to be mask-free. It's pretty nice to be getting back with family members. I've got my 2 grandkids at home right now, and there is nothing better. And so we're in a different place now, but we do still need to keep our guard up there as we look at COVID still being there, new variants. Just please be careful. But boy, does it look different, I think, Fleet, this time than 7 months ago. And let me just tell you, I'm pretty proud as Chief of Naval Personnel that throughout this entire crisis, your MyNavy HR team has been able to keep the pipeline of new sailors flowing from the street to the fleet. To put that in perspective for you, about 54,000 new sailors from the street to the fleet amidst COVID. We've been able to continue to advance our most deserving sailors. And this afternoon, I'm going to send the final PRT nav admin to get us started again the 1st of July. Have you guys, I'm looking at the studio audience here, have you all been practicing your planks? Yeah, I like it. Okay. So, and I'm not going to let Fleet goad me into getting down on the floor here and do planks for you, although he does that fairly routinely.
Yeah, it works every time.
It does work every time. But so, listen, again, we know that the last year hasn't been easy, but as I think about what you have done, what everyone watching has done, our sailors and their families, I think of our sailors and families who are in the midst of a PCS move when we had to put their orders on hold, that OSD stop movement. We know how disruptive that was. I think about the sailors who had to spend 2 weeks away from their families, romming on ships, and that was in advance of a deployment where they were going to be gone. And so make no mistake, it was hard, it is hard, and you've done a great job, and we're proud of what you've done, keeping over 100 ships underway, protecting, the global commons, keeping the world safe throughout COVID. And that gets lost a lot of times. But when we look at what we do, defending freedom, the American way of life, that can't be done virtually. You've done it here. And I'm just grateful for everything that you and your families have done. So Fleet and I are really excited about the discussions that we're going to have today. And we're excited about the future of our Navy and where we're going. And we look forward to talking with you about that, about great power competition. Make no mistake, though, that we both believe that it is a privilege, it is an honor to serve with each and every one of you every single minute. So, Fleet, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'd echo a little bit of that. Just proud. Couldn't be more proud of our Navy. You know, my number one takeaway from COVID from the last year is it almost doesn't matter what you throw at our Navy and our sailors and our families. We just find a way, stick together, overcome, find creative solutions, just keep moving forward. So it's great to be returning to some normalcy, but it's never easy. So I'm really grateful. I'm happy to be here in the DMA studio with a live studio audience, which is fantastic just to get to engage with you. And we learn a ton setting up and doing these town halls, right? Since the moment that we kicked off the announcement that we were going to do it, we've been getting a steady stream of questions on Facebook and throughout our social media feeds and in preparation. It just helps us to understand what's going on. So I look forward to being able to talk to you about what we're trying to do, what we are doing to make things easier for you and your family, to make the simple things simple and routine, to buy back time for you to work on warfighting excellence, and to taking care of your families and advancing your careers. So I'm excited to be here. I may not always show that, so they're holding up cue cards in the back, say Fleet Smile. So there you go. Can't wait to get into this with you. So CNP, back to you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll take it from here, Fleet, but thank you very much for those great words. Let's go ahead and get started. And the first question, and it comes to us from Sasebo, Japan, and it has something that concerns everyone, especially those serving overseas. Let's roll the tape.
I am Chief Bedoya from Expeditionary Strike Group 7. Regular leave earned during fiscal year 21 is not protected and can be lost if not used by 30 September 2021. As of May 2021, the Office of Secretary of Defense has now authorized SLA for fiscal year 2021. This policy is fine for CONUS sailors who are allowed to travel freely. For FDNS sailors who are restricted to the policy of our host nation, this presents many challenges when trying to take leave CONUS or within the country due to COVID. Will waivers be entertained if submitted by the commands? If not, will it be possible to carry over the leave to the end of fiscal year 2022? Or are there any other options being discussed?
CNP, your thoughts?
Yeah, Chief, thanks. And this must have been a cherry pick because Strike Group 7 was my Strike Group command. And so I think I've stood right where Chief was standing there. So thank you for that question. So the direct answer to that is that that is covered by statute and by OSD, but we are working with OSD on getting special leave accrual to cover FY21 as well. Certainly right now, and we have throughout our history, at least recent history, been able to ask for it at a unit level, when you look at deployments, when you look at other special circumstances unique to just one outfit, you can ask for it, and in general, we favorably consider those. But we're looking at it for the whole of Navy. I did talk to my Marine counterpart, General Dave Ottenjan, just yesterday, and this is something that the Marine Corps is leaning into as well. And so this is something that we support and that we'll be working with OSD, but it is at the OSD level to be able to do that. And then at the Secretariat level, in other words, Secretary of the Navy, to do that. So, Chief, thanks again for that question. Thanks for what you're doing out there, too.
Okay, Fleet K, this next question is for you. And we just were in Japan. Now let's head to Bahrain for the next question. And we're going to find out what's on the mind of HM3 Fernando Guzman.
Hello, sir. My name is HM3 Fernando Guzman. I'm attached to NSA Bahrain. My question is, will PT results be implemented to the advancement exam?
All right, so Fleet?
Well, great question, and I could argue that they already are through your evaluation. In Block 36, we definitely look at your military bearing, your character, your professionalism there. And in fact, we have a graduated scale that says, hey, at the bottom end of the scale, when we're evaluating you there, that you're not doing well, we mark you low. If you're doing fine, we mark you in the middle. If you are living a culture of fitness, achieving high marks in your physical readiness testing, then you achieve the highest mark on your evaluation. The evaluation directly feeds into your final multiple score. In fact, it's a pretty big factor in your final multiple score. But I think what you're asking is we going to get to where we use it kind of like award points, where we really incentivize sailors to go above and beyond. And that's been an ongoing debate for some time kind of in our Navy. What role does fitness play? We're a highly technical service, so you know that we value technical expertise and knowledge. We value skill. We value your application of core values and the way you live every day and interact with your shipmates, the way you lead. How much do we value health and fitness? We value it. And we continue to discuss. I think as we move forward to more of a dynamic scoring of your final multiple, think your advancement dashboard where you can see your final multiple. We're looking at ways to update that more frequently, to put the ball in your court, to look for ways to improve that final multiple score more than just twice a year with an advancement exam. Perhaps there's a place there to incentivize you to excel at physical readiness. So we're looking at it. I'd argue it already counts. I think I know what you're looking for, and we can discuss that further. I personally value fitness for a variety of reasons. I work out darn near every day, rarely miss one, because of the way it makes me feel. By the way, I think it allows me to perform in the Navy. Encourage you to do the same. I think a little bit of incentive might go a long way to driving the culture of fitness we're looking for. So, great question. More to follow.
CNP
Sir?
Fleet, while we're on the topic of physical fitness, we haven't done a PRT since 2019. The 2021 cycle is right around the corner, kicking off in July. There's a NAV admin that I believe you mentioned is coming out today, a little bit of breaking news for our audience. Could you give us a little sneak peek on what's in that NAV admin, what we can expect? I know we've talked about plank and row.
Right.
What else is in there?
Yeah, so there are a number of things, Dave. Thanks. So the first is that well, I will just reiterate, the plank is going to replace the curl up, right? The old sit up. Now, probably many of you were like me. I had mastered doing sit-ups really, really fast. Okay, and I'd max them out. That said, the way that I was doing them was really, really bad for my back, and it wasn't really a test of core strength, which is what we're trying to get after. So, one, unhealthy the way we were doing it and promoting it. There is a good way to do curl-ups, right? I mean, you can do them. Don't let your back leave the floor, etc. But the plank, undeniably, is healthier for the individual, and it's also a better measure of core strength, which is applicable to about 85% of what we expect a typical sailor to do on a typical ship. The rower is just one more aerobic exercise that folks in the fleet said, hey, we would like to have this as an option, right? We know sailors like options. Important to note that, and we do understand, gang, that we have not done the PRT since 2019. We know that it was challenging for many, when the gyms closed, et cetera. We got out of our routine, the kind of routine that Fleet talked about. I remember, for me personally, I was running up and down the stairs in my empty headquarters building. to try and stay in shape. So we had to come up with alternative ways of doing it. The good news is I think most of those gyms are back open. We certainly promoted, you rose to the challenge of keeping yourself in shape. But on the plank, we're not going to go ahead and count that one against you this first cycle because we want to make sure that we get it right. So what I'm going to ask you to do, though, is help us help you on this one. Your push-ups, okay, and your aerobics are going to count as part of the PRT. We'll score the plank. You'll know how you did. You'll understand where that would put you, but then that won't be part of your final score. But we're going to use that to make sure that we have the tables right. We call them modalities, but the scoring tables right. And so I would ask you to take a round turn, and we are going to make you do it right. And so, please don't play possum and just lay there. Do it, and then that's going to tell you how you'll do then next cycle. For our pregnant sailors, and so if you're pregnant, if you have a baby, after, in typical Navy, we can't make it just easy and say after you've had the baby. So after a qualified birth event, then we're going to increase from 9 months to 12 months when those birth mothers will then need to do the PRT to include the BCA. Again, we are, though, from at the 6 to 9 month point, going to ask those mothers to do a mock PRT very carefully. They'll have to be cleared. That will just help as we then look at the training regimen. And then we're also putting more aid online to help you understand how to get in shape for it. For our command fitness coordinators, right, our CFTs, our command fitness trainers, one, thanks for what you're doing. Two, you'll recall that the old PRIM system, the PRT information management system, somewhat antiquated. We've been in the midst of overhauling that. We call it PRIMS 2. We thought we'd have that online by the beginning of July. We ran into a hitch with the cyber accreditation, something that we've overcome. We're getting it out there now to go ahead and soft test it. So that's not going to be available on the 1st of July. That's not a reason to not start the PRT because, quite frankly, the way we do it is you write down on the sheet what you do, you sign it, that's held, and then that was getting put into the system. But it will be around the beginning of September that we'll have that online. Fleet, what have I missed, though?
No, I'd like to say the window opens in July. There's a 6-month window to conduct the PRT, to do a BCA and then do the physical readiness test, the PFA. So commands, make maximum use of that time. If you need to get out and get some command PT started, or you want to do some courtesy measurements or some mock PRTs safely, just to help sailors, get moving again and make sure we know what we're doing. And then just take your time. Dot your I's and cross your T's. Everybody has to have a PHA. Everybody needs to have a PAR FQ that we've reviewed, that we're comfortable that you're actually ready to execute the test, right? So we want to do it safely, and we've got some time to do it. So.
Yeah. Okay, all right, very good. I mentioned earlier that we have sailors standing by live in Norfolk, the world's largest Navy base, and joining us is PS1 Amy Mullen from Navy Expeditionary Combat Command, NECC. PS1, how you doing down there?
I'm great, sir. Thank you.
Good. Nice day in Norfolk?
It's beautiful today.
All right, fantastic. It's always beautiful in Norfolk. Well, I believe you have a question in regards to, I'm being polite, Fleet. Yeah. I believe you have a question for CNP in regards to military families. Go ahead and ask your question.
I do, sir. Thank you. I was wondering if there's been any thought given to a family co-location plan or policy for dual military parents that are not married. I think that this would alleviate a lot of child care arrangement issues and stress, and just alleviate the activation of the family care plan if one parent was on shore and one was on sea.
All right. PS1, thank you. CNP?
Yeah, PS1, want thanks, and having commanded a great ship like the one behind you in Norfolk, I always wish I was on the piers in Norfolk. So thanks for what you're doing there. Hey, so the first point that I'd make is you are correct that part of our policy is not that written into the policy is that we will by policy co-locate parents of children if you're not married, primarily just because that becomes pretty hard to track. Something that we're looking at, not something that we have now. Does not mean, though, that we're not willing to do it. And we do a very good job with the dual military married couples, right? And in fact, we very rarely, it used to be 3-4 years ago, if we were on the road, we'd get a lot of folks, asking about that. And by and large, I find that is going very well. But I do acknowledge the circumstances that you mentioned. And so what I would ask is that for our shipmates that are in that position, please make it clear to your command career counselor, to your chain of command, and then to the detailers where you're in that circumstance, so that, because at the end of the day, detailers do actually have hearts. They have actually been at sea, and they do actually have families. And so we will try and work with those shipmates. I will say, though, that it might mean that that we have to say, okay, we can co-locate both of you. It may not be in the first duty choice, all right? It may be somewhere where we have a spot for both of you, but it'll be together. But it may be, San Diego instead of Norfolk, or vice versa, or somewhere else. So, but again, thanks for that question.
Our social media team is standing by at the feedback desk, monitoring the questions and comments that CNP and Fleet have been receiving. Lene Burns from News You Can Use is joined by MC1 Legazzo and MC2 Mullinax. Team, what are you seeing on social media? How are people reacting to what Fleet K and CNP have had to say?
Good morning, Commander Heck. First of all, let me say our team is super excited to be here with you and CNP and Fleet K, and it's really exciting to see what's happening out here on the desk. We've been pretty busy with a lot of comments coming in, a lot of people hopping in on the town hall meeting to see what's happening. MC1, give us a little perspective of kind of the topics, the comments that are coming in. We're seeing quite a few.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having served back-to-back sea duties and served with Chief Bedoya aboard the Ronald Reagan as part of the forward deployed naval forces, and also serving in Norfolk with the very heavy operational schedule, I can say that leave policy and advancement policy are something sailors are always thinking about. A lot of our comments are actually talking about COVID-19, and you guys can see that as well. And it's important that we talk about these subjects.
Yeah, a lot of important topics coming through. Of course, our first question is going to be about leave. And MC2, give us a little perspective too, and dealing with your shipmates and talking to them. How important is the topic of leave to them?
Definitely, especially important from the past year. COVID affected everyone and their families, and just this ever-changing environment that we've been in from the past year. We have to adapt, and I know that CNP and everybody on CNP's teams kind of just evolved and approached everything as it's come in. And a lot of discussions on social media we know have prompted change. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have a specific question about leave for you all today. It comes from Nick Green, and his question specifically is, quote, I should be able to sell leave at any point until I only have 14 days remaining for emergencies. Also, I'd like to be able to give my leave to a deserving sailor. What are your thoughts on that?
CNP, Fleet, what are your thoughts on being able to sell leave and buy back?
Sure. Why don't I jump in, and then I'll pass to Fleet. So the first thing that I'd mention is that, and again, thanks for that question. Actually, by statute, in other words, by law, we are not allowed to do that in the military. Now, civil servants, government civilians, folks in the civilian world, many times you'll see that is baked in to what they can do. But I would argue that it's very different too for them. Quite frankly, I think what many of us don't necessarily appreciate as much, especially when we first come in to the Navy, is there's no company that's going to give you 30 days of leave. And I know sometimes it can be challenging to take all of that, and you have to time that carefully. But it is an incredible benefit. And so one of the reasons that many companies or Navy civilians, for instance, are able to do that, let me give that leave to a deserving coworker. My wife's done that as a school teacher, is because they just don't have the amount of leave that we do, or some of the other benefits where we can take care of shipmates pretty good when they need it. But specifically, by law, we're not allowed to do the, hey, why can't I sell back to 14 days? There's certainly an ability to sell back some leave. I'll mention one other thing, and I know Fleet will probably have a couple of things to add here. One, let me encourage all of you, though, to take the leave and make yourself do it. Sometimes it may not be optimum, but the CNO has encouraged commanders, even amidst all the challenges of COVID, to get folks on leave. And he's doing that from the senior levels down to the deck plates. And so if that's not happening in your command, then that's something that you need to push up. And the senior enlisted leader network, going to your command master chief, going up through your LPO and your DIVO or department head. I think they'll be receptive, and we would encourage that. Fleet, over to you.
Yeah, I'll hit on that fine point on take leave early and often for the good of the service. It's one of the biggest leader development tools we have in our toolbox, believe it or not, because one, if you're a leader, you have to prepare your team in order to be able to leave and them to perform in your absence. It kind of drives that culture. It shows that you trust your team to get the job done, those that you have trained, led, and developed. And then you come back with a recharged battery after leave and ready to go. So we've got a great leave policy. We want you to take the leave. I think CNP, there's probably some room to explore other conditions where leave sell back. The sort of only 60 days and only sort of once in a career may be a little bit limiting, especially when you look at somebody like me with a 32-year plus career coming. There's probably some scenarios in there where we'd want to sell back leave. I definitely agree that I'm having a hard time finding an opportunity where we would need to donate leave to other sailors. We have so many ways to take care of our shipmates. Liberal use of TAD assignments and limited duty, convalescent leave, primary and secondary caregiver leave periods that are pretty liberal. So I'd be in favor of maybe looking at what is in the art of the possible for leave sell back. Is our policy right? But I think we want you to take the leave, not sell it back in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. Studio audience, do you have an interest in advancement exam results? Oh yeah, I got a woohoo out there. When we come back, we're going to ask the team about the timeline for announcing advancement exam results and issues sailors are having with PSDs. We'll also take a question from our studio audience, so stay tuned. You're watching the MyNavy HR Town Hall. We'll be right back.
MyNavy HR just launched a new and improved website. The new website is designed to better serve sailors and the fleet by optimizing it for mobile use and increasing integration with Navy.mil. The MyNavy HR main page allows for commands and sailors to quickly reach the content they need for each career life event and see updates on any new nav admins or all navs. The site also features a low bandwidth entry point for our fleet users that is 80% smaller than the original and can be reached at mynavyhr.navy.mil/lb. MyNavy HR still holds all the personnel and pay resources that commands and sailors rely on to include messages, policies, and career management resources. npc.navy.mil is now a command-focused subsite under the main MyNavy HR website. Users can find it via the main menu or directly at www.npc.navy.mil. MyNavy HR continues to adapt to improve the experience for sailors and the fleet.
Navy Recruiting Command is searching for sailors to join the team. Technology has become an ever-increasing part of everyday life and recruiting. Thanks to our transformation efforts, our e-talent managers, cyber recruiting, and bio-ID technologies, recruiters have successfully integrated digital advancements into their day-to-day workflow. If you're looking for an exciting job that is filled with benefits, recruiting is for you. Contact your detailer to become part of our team.
RRL, what is it? Ready Relevant Learning. It's an all-inclusive approach to training our enlisted force. RRL accelerates learning and better prepares sailors for warfighting in operational environments. RRL provides the right training at the right time and the right way for our sailors. It's a modern approach that uses the science of learning. For more information on Ready Relevant Learning, visit netc.navy.mil/RRL. And welcome back to the MyNavy HR Town Hall. We are coming to you live from the studios of Defense Media Activity. Before we get to the next question, I want to remind everyone out there to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We have over 300,000 followers, so join your shipmates. Always be in the know on the news you can use for your career. Okay, let's get back to the questions, and it comes from a member of our studio audience. So first and foremost, what's your name and what command are you with?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Fleet. I am Wayne Windemarkey from CWA 67.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for being courageous enough to be the first person up to the mic. What's your question, and who would you like to direct it to?
So, sir, my question is directed to Fleet, or either you can answer, sir, if you'd like.
If you'd like, sir. If you'd like.
You still get guaranteed orders, don't worry.
Thank you, sir. My question is, when sailors transfer from previous commands to their gain in command, how can they be gained in a timely manner so that they don't incur debt?
Great. You want me to go with it?
Go for it.
Great. So we expect to gain a sailor in 24 hours is the metric that we're striving for. And we've been kind of looking at that over the last couple of months, maybe the last year, and we haven't come close to that metric in an awful lot of places. So we recently released a nav admin talking about professionalizing sort of how we utilize CPPAs, how they interface with our team and in MyNavy HR to do this in a timely manner. And just from kind of rolling up our sleeves and getting involved and doing a little bit of training and discussion and coordination, we've been driving those timelines down in Norfolk, Virginia, on that waterfront in Surfland very, very aggressively. So the entire key is we've made that easier. NSIP's panel 1 gain, we're going to push that down to the command level and make that process simple. And that's really the gateway to everything else getting started. Don't want you to go without BAH, proper BAH for the area that you're in for any extended period of time. We don't want you to carry that debt on the travel claim, and we're getting very, very aggressive at driving down those timelines and making that work. And we're already seeing some progress. In fact, I saw a list yesterday from the Surface Force Master Chief out of Norfolk, Surfland, Force NUP, and he had about a list of 20 commands that were averaging right around 1 day to get sailors gained on board. As soon as we can get gains into a headlock, then we're going to start driving out every minute and every second we can out of that BAH start and then out of that travel claim processing. So acknowledge the issue. We've got to do better. It's all hands on deck right now. In addition to bringing online a much faster modernized pay and personnel system early next year, we can do better right now, even with the tools we have, and we're working hard at it. So.
Yeah, and I'll mention one other quick thing, and again, thanks for the question. So for everyone, when you get those BAH surveys, do them, because that is how they figure out what are the market values. OSD controls that. They do it about once every year. Every now and then we'll have somebody who says, we think this is out of whack, and we work hard, and they bring a special team in. But the way, so one issue is getting you gained so that our pay system gets you paid for what the tables say more quickly. The other is many times we hear, hey, the BAH rates aren't enough where I'm living, and you help control that by the surveys that you do to say this is what I'm actually paying. And then the way they compute that is they say, by law, we expect to pay 95% of what those expenses are, and then for that additional 5%. But a lot of times folks say, hey, it seems to me it's a lot more than 5%. But again, thanks for what you're doing here. One other plug for as you do that move, remember things like MyNavy Family, that app, the MyPCS Mobile. Did you use that for this move by chance?
No, sir.
Okay. What I would ask is that for those who are listening that have PCS moves coming up, the MyPCS Mobile is designed to make it easy. Orders that are written in English that you can understand, a pre-populated checklist for you. You can sign up on the career, on the Child Development Center or the housing waiting list automatically. And then on the tail end for your travel claim, you take pictures of your receipts, you upload it, and then you submit it. And it helps bring our travel claim processing time way, way down and the error rate almost to zero. And so, you guys all do everything else on your iPhones, even us old folks do now. And so please use that. I still find a lot of sailors don't know about it. But that was a really good question. And as you can tell from Fleet's answer, we're working hard to get after it. And we were talking to a couple of the CPPAs in the audience. We're excited about the system that they're going to be using here soon in the July timeframe to be able to transmit. Not the gains are one issue, and then travel claims and others. When we're able to go from what's called TOPS now to Salesforce, a modern customer relationship management software that everybody in the outside world uses, we think it'll be a lot better. But did that answer your question, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the proof's in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, so we'll make sure you have our email addresses as you're talking to your shipmates. Thank you.
All right,
sir.
well, last segment, we had a couple of questions from Japan and Bahrain. Let's go back to Bahrain. This is a question that got a woohoo from the front row here in the studio audience. So CNP, this is a question for you, and it is about advancement board results.
Hi, my name is Chief Tony Johnson. I'm assigned currently to NCTS Bahrain. My question is there currently a plan in place to get advancement results and selection board results back onto the time schedule that the Navy is used to? And if so, when is that plan on taking place?
Yeah, so again, thanks for that question. The simple answer is yes and now. But you guys know that I can't answer it that simply. But not to spend a whole lot more time because we went to not testing on a single day, but over the course of days to expand it so we could use COVID protocols. That certainly meant that we extended the windows for the testing, and that then just cascaded, and that's why you see the kind of delays that we've got right now. We'll see some of that going into the fall as we look at what how we're gonna do the advancement exams there. But I think we'll see coming out of that here in the not too distant future. Fleet?
Yeah, we're just over the course of the last year, we've been slowly migrating the boards, pushing the schedule back toward what normal would look like. But what does the future look like for advancement exams? In fact, I'm in favor and kind of driving some initiatives that look at going to advancement exams on demand. So instead of taking an exam twice per year in these batch cycle across the entire Navy and then mailing all the results back in and processing, we're still using number 2 pencils and bubble scoring sheets. Imagine a world where you sit or you take your advancement exam when you're ready. After you've time and rate eligible, your prereqs are all done, you're recommended by your command, you go down and sit and take the exam either at a testing center, or we just order your exam and proctor it and then send it back in. And that sort of feeds into this idea of a more dynamic final multiple that you have some control over, that you're viewing, saying, hey, how do I improve my standing in my rating so I'm more competitive in the marketplace for orders and assignments and evaluation, et cetera. So that's a glimpse of what the future could look like, and we think that makes sense, and we're driving in that direction. Obviously, selection board movement is much harder, right? Yeah. The chief's selection boards, the senior chief and master chief are not the only boards in town down in Millington, Tennessee. In fact, the board spaces down there are booked year-round with the facilities in heavy use and rotation by officer boards, enlisted boards, statutory, non-statutory. So it's this giant puzzle that we're trying to maneuver back into place. But I'm more excited about the future of sort of more junior advancement and going to this advancement exam on demand. And so hit us up in the comments if you have some thoughts about that and how that might play out. I've been starting to socialize that pretty heavily wherever I can. So,
yeah,
sir.
and incidentally, just one last thing there. I know we're driving you crazy, Dave, but the professional military knowledge electronic exam, how we deliver that online. And again, once, you know, during a particular time frame in your career, right, didn't make sense doing it each time, and we don't care what you go to get an answer, right? When I need to put my uniform together, sometimes even I go and look it up on the uniform app. But that was a way that we're starting to get after us learning how to deliver exams on demand online, which is where we want to go with the rating exams. And then eventually what Fleet's talking about is a detailing marketplace. And we'll I think, probably have a chance to talk more about that later in the show.
Okay, very good. Let's go down to Pier 4 in Norfolk, and standing by is ETV1 Christopher Giardina. ETV1, did I get your last name right? I hate mispronouncing people's last names.
You did, Giardina.
Okay, very good. So you have a question for our panel here today. What's your question?
Admiral, my question is, with all the different websites that are required for sailors and their dependents to update for marriages and births, such as NSIPs, DEERS, and Red DA, why is it that they all require to be updated independently for sailors and their dependents to receive the appropriate pay and benefits?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question.
Short answer?
I'm going to give you...
Well, CNP, that does get a good round of applause from the audience. I think they all feel the same way with that question.
Yeah. So let me start, and then actually I'll let Fleet jump in, and then I may finish it off, because it's stupid. So now let me qualify that, because that's not really the banner that I want on Navy Times. But it is. But you've just voiced the same frustration that I have, and you know, I've been in a long time. Been married 35 years, and my spouse would also say that seems stupid. So we're working really hard as we're modernizing these antiquated systems from the 70s, updating the policies, making it easier for you to do it, and then where you don't have to do it multiple times, right, with the same piece of paper, the same proof. And so, Fleet, do you want to kind of finish that off?
Yeah, it's a system limitation. We built these 55 disparate systems over the last 60, 70 years to manage our HR. They just don't talk to each other. And it's cost prohibitive to even try to get them to talk to each other. And when we do get them to talk, they don't translate well, and it gets dorked up. So we are dangerously close to launching this one system to rule them all that we call NP2. And it's not a joke. It's here. It's live in the background. You're already accessing it through some of the mobile apps that we have online. We're in heavy testing right now, both on waterfront units and other, and we look to deliver early next year. That solves the vast majority of this. It's all going to ride on an authoritative data environment on the same backbone. We're going to modernize. Red DA and TOPS go away. You know, that should get a round of applause, you know, from somebody. In some, you know, very emotional circles, people say Red DA is the devil, and I say it's not the devil. It's not working the way we need it to. It will be replaced with MyNavy Relationships, that's built right as a module inside of our brand new NP2 cloud-based, modernized pay and per system. And when you put the data in once, all the other nodes in the system have the same data. They're using the same data source. All of this gets much easier. So Red DA, TOPS, DEERS, all of those things, NSIPs, all in a common system, working together, talking together. So the cavalry is actually coming. They're on the hill, coming down. If you can just hang on. We promise to deliver. I shouldn't say that, should I? Promise. We are going to deliver. CNP is going to deliver this modernized system in the next 6 months.
Our friends at Navy Times are watching, and I'm not sure what's a better cover for the next paper. The Cavalry is coming, or because it's stupid. So,
yeah. So you're going to edit out this segment?
We're live.
Yeah, that was a really good question. And NP2 is Navy Personnel and Pay System. As Fleet said, we're going to roll it out early next year. What we haven't talked about, though, is it's the first integrated active and reserve pay system. What most of our active sailors don't realize is that if you think sometimes it's hard to get your personnel and pay records squared away, it's exponentially harder for a reservist. Do we have any reservists in the audience? Would you guys agree with that statement? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that is really, that's a big deal. NP2, we're going to deliver, and we're going to do it like everything else we're doing, gang. And I want this to be really, really clear, because I don't want, in February, I don't want you to say, I have a pay glitch. I remember that guy Nowell and Koshoff are those liars. The idea is we don't want any pay glitches in February, but we're going to get NP2 out, and it'll be the first integrated ACRC pay system. We'll then incrementally add more personnel functions to that, and this is hard. It's hard taking 55 antiquated systems and then bringing that down across everything we do, with bringing you off the street, into the fleet, training you, keeping your records, keeping your dependents' records, etc. So all of that, we will slowly work those 55 systems, and there's 250 plus programs within those. We'll slowly work those down, and we don't finish with all that until FY25, and it's really expensive. So what I'm telling you is we're going to get better out there. We will not put it out there unless we're confident that and it'll be independently validated, that we're going to pay sailors right, and then we'll incrementally make it better based on your feedback, okay? So I always want to make sure that's clear, because I don't want you to think we're snake oil salesmen and we're selling you a bag of goods.
CNP, our next question came in through social media. It's from our shipmate Tim Mills at Naval Special Warfare Group 10. I won't read it verbatim, but as you can see, he is not a fan of what we now call TSCs. He says most commands have PSs that are more than capable of completing a task, but they're unable to because, he says, quote, their hands are tied and have to rely on TSCs to make the change. He goes on to say that the TSCs, you can't call them directly, and MMCC just tracks problems and is, quote, of zero assistance. So his question is, when will the Navy take a hard look at properly training PSs at commands to handle the more serious problems to reduce the burden on downsized TSCs?
Yeah, so Senior, thank you for that. We were having this discussion in the live studio audience before we started this with one of our PSs who's a CPPA here in one of the local commands. So a couple of quick points. The first is, I think that many folks think nostalgically about their PSD and it was so good. Just to be very, very clear, and there were plenty of PSDs, we had great people that worked in them. Many were good and some were not. And sometimes you were lucky and sometimes you weren't. And we had over 100 of them all doing business a little bit differently. And gang, that is just, it's not effective and it's not efficient. And I'll say it that bluntly. I know that that there was an attachment to having the PSD there that you walked into. Now, Ensign John Nowell remembers, getting my sheet of paper that said I'm married to Joe Brooke Nowell now, and walking to the PSD, waiting an hour, giving it to him. They said, well, you need this additional piece of paper from ship's office. And I walked back to the ship. And after a while, I got it. And then I walked back to the PSD, and I spent another hour, and then I got that action done. So it took me a half day to get that done. That's not what we're looking for. I know that's not necessarily the example you're talking about, Senior. But the point here is that if you want us to deliver world-class HR service, the way you do it is to try and do things that we do a lot of in volume and in mass. Think about gains. How do we bring you into the service, and muster you in? Or how do we retire you, right? Or how do we do that AC to RC? Or how do we do the travel claims? And so the idea was, and I think for a while it was, hey, we're getting rid of all the PSDs. The PSDs, we are consolidating those, and we're moving that back office work to centers of excellence. Travel claims in Millington, okay? Reserve affairs in Norfolk, gains in Great Lakes. And then we're going to ultimately have 12 what we'll call regional service centers, and that will still be a place where there'll be real live PSs where for special circumstances, not transactional, that's not where we want to spend a bunch of time. We want to have folks that can do those travel claims like that. We want to use RPAs and bots, right, that can do it in the background. Think AI, think artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's not hard to do. We're doing some of that now. So it's a much more efficient way. And oh, by the way, our travel claim processing time, and we got an update on this morning coming over, is 2 weeks. Now, it's 2 weeks, all right, once we have a clean travel claim. And how do we get a clean, I'm looking at our CPPA in the audience, right? We get a clean travel claim once it's something that we say, this now is going from the CPPA to the PSD to the TSC, where it doesn't have errors, where we have to kick it back and say, it's missing this receipt, or you didn't fill this in, or didn't sign there. So that's one of the reasons that we're pushing more things like MyPCS Mobile. It's also one of the reasons why here recently we revamped the PSA and C school training curriculum, why we established an NEC for our CPPAs, why we have online required training, and it's not inconsequential that they have to do. And then it's why to enable them with the right training, we're not there yet, okay? I acknowledge that, and we put it on the backs of some of our PSs and our CPPAs as we moved, and probably moved a little too quickly. And so I'll just say sorry up front for that, but we learned. We've rectified that. And then as we look at the two 24/7 contact centers, one in Little Creek, one in Millington. Fleet and I have been to both here over the last month, okay? In Millington, we actually formed what's called a CPPA Pro Cell. And that is real live PSs who have been CPPAs, who have worked at a TSC, and who are designed for your CPPA to call in to get an issue rectified. We talked about that with one of our CPPAs in the audience. And Truth in Lending, his experience was not as fulfilling as what I'd want, and tracks to kind of what you said. So this is still something that we're working. The last thing that I'll mention there, and we just started a pilot, we are moving, so the way this service is supposed to work, I know I'm going a little long-winded here, but this covers a couple of different things. You go on the web, you try and answer your question without talking to a human being. If that doesn't work, you're talking to your CPPA, but let's say that you then call into the MyNavy Career Center to get one of those contact agents. What we really want is for them to be able to answer your question like that. If they can't, then they create a case, and then it goes up, and that's then called going to a Tier 2 subject matter expert. We are now moving some of those Tier 2 subject matter experts in Millington down onto that watch floor for that 24/7 contact center to see if we can't push more of, let's get this done as soon as possible on the spot for our sailors. And we're excited about that. We're just starting that pilot. So we're doing a bunch of things there to try and further train and professionalize our CPPAs, to give them the support they need, and then to hold ourselves accountable for the processing times and the way that we then deliver that HR service to you. Fleet, did I miss anything?
I'd say the The TSC PSD construct, the only part of the question or the statement I'd push back on it is that that's not working or won't work. I don't think you're going to care where we process your travel claim if we do it in a handful of days and it's accurate and it's easy. So bear with us on that. The other two comments that he makes in there about pushing things down to the CPPA that could be done, absolutely. We're on that path. It's a great suggestion. It makes a ton of sense. And then the comment about the MyNavy Career Center call center sort of still being in the stages of just answering and triaging, not laying things flat. Fair point, acknowledge, and we're on that path. And I think so. We're sticking to the TSC construct. We think that's really going to work for bulk transaction processing. We're going to empower CPPAs and commands wherever we can to take care of transaction work or push it to you for self-service, so his point is well taken. And then we're really beefing up the MyNavy Career Center to be able to lay things flat on that first call and not have to generate that ticket or just answer the phone for you. So, you know, I know it's less of a question and more of a statement about sort of dissatisfaction with the process. Brings up some great points. We acknowledge working hard on those, and I think you're going to see some huge improvements in the very near future.
This is a town hall, and we want everybody to have a voice in this program. So let's go back to the feedback desk. Our team is standing by, and I'm curious to hear what the sailors have been saying in response to the comments made by Fleet K and CNP.
Well, definitely, Commander Hecht, sailors appreciating CNP's candor in answering these questions and just being really forward and blunt and clear about how he feels about certain things that sailors are having to deal with. That was a really fun and very interesting moment, too, sailors responding to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all agree that our personnel specialists and yeomen are a wealth of information. And leveraging those subject matter experts need to be utilized more effectively moving forward.
Yeah, and what other comments did you see from sailors?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of great conversation taking place in our feed. We definitely want to say thank you, Michael Hill. We appreciate you being tuned in and providing additional resources and information regarding this topic. It just seems people are really engaged. It's a really strong topic that affects all of us, pay and personnel and managing all that data. So.
Very true. And really too many comments to address specifically, but you can know that a lot of people are listening to these answers. They're tuned in. They're, happy to hear this conversation about it. And like you said, Commander Hecht, everyone has a voice in this conversation. This is the point of having a town hall. So bringing up this topic and then seeing all the responses, definitely striking a chord with sailors out there. And our next question coming up, also a very important topic amongst sailors. We're talking about diversion and inclusion. And MC2, you have a specific question from a sailor about that.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of current events have pushed us to really recognize issues that have been ever present, right? So in the past year, we've really opened up the floor to understanding each other and all of our nuanced experiences. We want to thank HM2 Corinne Ramos from Navy Readiness and Training Command, Bethesda. And her question was that following the murder of George Floyd, many people in the Navy appreciated the necessary conversations and training that spotlighted implicit bias. And her question really is, are there plans for this type of training to continue in the fleet?
Yeah, CNP, I know you're very passionate about DE&I. Let's have you answer that question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dave, and thanks for that question. It's really important. Let me just start by saying that when we talk about diversity and equity and inclusion, we're not doing it because we're trying to make a political statement. We think it's politically correct, or we're trying to get a sound bite. We are doing it because it's about warfighting readiness. We know that if we want to fight and win in great power competition, we have to have a diverse team, and I'm looking at a diverse team in the audience today. It has to be led inclusively, and we need a fair and level playing field for all of the folks that are sitting out there and that are sitting where you are. And we all want to be treated with dignity and respect, and we all want to be able to work hard and to recognize that all of our journeys are a little different. If you're like me, right, than some of the listening sessions, and I did plenty in my own headquarters, and then I did them as part of Task Force 1 Navy. And they were hard conversations. I personally thought that we had made more progress, I think, as a nation and as a Navy, and I'm very proud of what the Navy has done with respect to inclusion and diversity. Make no mistake, but are we going to continue? Yes. The listening sessions, the CNO has been very clear that he expects commanding officers, and really it's more powerful, I think, when it's your division officer, your leading chief, who's having it, and where it's just sort of a day-to-day thing, and recognizing that some of our shipmates, again, have lived life journeys that are hard, and sometimes what they're looking for is somebody to listen and to empathize, and we all need that sometimes. So yes, we are going to continue. We have built these core, we call them core competencies for DEI, into our training curriculums. All right, and then and they do include things like implicit bias. You know, implicit bias is something that we say it. A lot of folks have the wrong connotation about it. Implicit bias is just something where, you know, if you read a book like Dr. Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, Ancient Brain, Modern Brain, it's hardwired in. It's not because you have a conscious bias. It's not because I say Fleet Koschhofer doesn't look like me and therefore I'm biased against him. It's more so that we, in general, you know, if you think back to, you know, cavemen, if it didn't look like them, it could eat them, and they either needed to kill it or run from it. And so that is sort of a very simple explanation of implicit bias, is that, you know, you don't even know you have it, but you do, and if we talk about it and we understand it, then we can better deal with it to make sure, again, that it's that fair and level playing field. Conscious bias is a totally different beast, and that's something where, you know, if we find it, you know, we can root it out, and we're not going to tolerate it. But it is really important. But let me please make sure that everyone knows, one, this is enduring. It's part of our culture of excellence. We don't ever talk about what we're doing with diversity, equity, inclusion without talking about, that's our fourth line of effort in our Culture of Excellence campaign plan. The first line of effort in that COE campaign plan is developing lethal warfighters, right? We're doing that with things like warrior toughness at boot camp, with ready relevant learning on how we train, with leader development, both officer and enlisted. The second line of effort is increasing signature behaviors. What does right look like, okay? Do we have bystander intervention? Are shipmates taking care of shipmates? Are we taking care of ourselves? The third is driving down destructive behaviors, okay? You know, and we can show that in a culture of excellence, in a good command with good command climate, destructive behaviors are far fewer. And if you have one destructive behavior, you're probably going to have others. And then the fourth line of effort in that Culture of Excellence campaign plan is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, it's important that everyone understands Culture of Excellence is not just sound bites. It's a real campaign plan. It's led by Fleet Forces. We're doing a lot of different things with that, but we're going to ask you to come on board, and you'll learn more and more on that.
Thank you very much, CNP. When we come back, we have an interesting question from a Kearsarge sailor about PRDs and ship deployment schedules. We'll also be talking higher tenure. Stay tuned. You're watching the MyNavy HR Town Hall. We'll be right back.
What's the higher tenure?
Properly storing your firearm can help prevent suicide. Firearms are the most common method of suicide in the United States. Studies have shown that when a highly lethal method of suicide is less accessible, the likelihood of an immediate attempt decreases. A few moments to retrieve and unlock a secured firearm can interrupt the impulse and open the door for help. Help is always available through your local Navy chaplain, Fleet and Family Support Center, or the Military Crisis Line.
PCSing is stressful. With so many steps to consider like household goods, travel costs, and deadlines, it can be overwhelming. But now, thanks to the MyPCS app, the process just got a lot simpler. Once sailors complete a one-time login using their Common Access Card, or CAC, access to the MyPCS app is completely CAC-free and available for use on smartphones, tablets, laptops, and desktop computers. So, what can you do in the app? Using the checklist provided, sailors can complete the PCS process one step at a time, working their way through each category including shipping household goods, family move, sailor admin, entitlements, and budgeting. The app also allows users to view their simplified lien orders and offers tips and resources based on the sailor's detachment date. More information can be found in NAV Admin 161-19 or by contacting the MyNavy Career Center.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. The questions keep rolling in, and for our studio audience, I know that this is a question that's on your minds, and we're going to hear CNP and Fleet K answer a question on this in just a little bit. The topic is beards. Question on your mind? Yeah, let's get some head nods out there. So we're going to hear about that in just a little bit. But first, a question for you in regards to higher tenure. It comes from Lieutenant Commander Jeremy Smith, and let's go ahead and roll the tape.
I'm Lieutenant Commander Jeremy Smith, the Quality Assurance Officer and Material Officer for Submarine Group 7. I obtained my commission after 15 years of service as an electronics technician. My question is about higher tenure for officers. Why is it that in a community that's struggling to maintain enough O4s, we calculate our higher tenure based off total service rather than years of commission service, forcing people out earlier than other communities do?
CNP, that question's for you, sir.
Yeah, hey, thanks for that question. Thanks for what you're doing there. So first of all, I'll just tell you the reason that we do it is because it's law, right? That's by statute that governs that. Now, that is something, though, that we're looking at to see as we look at a follow-on to work we did here in the 2019 timeframe that really helped Congress rewrite the Defense Officer Program Management, DOTMA, to really give us a chance to do what we call career paths that are up and out, okay, or up and stay, or up and bring back. And up and stay is kind of what you're talking about. And it makes a lot of sense to me, but it is by law that we have that. But we want to have as many options there as possible to make sure that we do keep quality officers like you in. I will tell you that at least the last time I checked, it's not that we can never get enough of you, but your community's over 100% for community health. So that's a good news story. Doesn't mean that we don't want to go down the path that you just described, and that's something that we are and will take a look at. Thanks.
CNP, thanks for that answer. Let's go back to our studio audience, and we have another member of the audience standing by. What's your name and what command are you with?
IS-1 Stewart, sir. I'm with JFHQ Doden here in Fort Meade.
Okay, so what's your question and who's it for?
It's for CNP. So I know that this is a concern amongst my peers over at my command and the reservists that I work with. So with the COVID vaccine not becoming mandatory, it's kind of a two-pronged question. So I have shipmates that say they don't want to get the vaccine because they're worried of how that affects them down the road in their VA benefits and the long-term effects of the vaccine. And then I also, on the flip side, I have sailors that say they want to get the vaccine because they think that their VA claims won't be denied as long as they take that voluntary vaccine. So I guess in general, are you able to expand on the vaccine, COVID, and the way going forward, what that looks like for the Navy?
Yeah, Petty Officer Stewart, thanks for that.
Yes, sir.
And hey, listen, I know that the vaccine, it's something that's very personal for everybody, right? It's a personal decision. It's emergency use authorization. So unlike the flu vaccine, which we do make mandatory in the Navy, like some other vaccinations that we do, that's not something that we can do, although I believe that when it's formally approved, which we expect pretty soon, we probably will go to that. And then that question will kind of be moot, because as we look at the vaccine, we think it's about risk to force and risk to mission. Risk to force is risk to you. We think you're safer, your family's safer. Risk to mission, your shipmates are safer, and therefore we can make sure that we get the job done. And I will tell you that I absolutely believe, and I've been involved in every high level Navy discussion on the vaccine, and having listened into ones with folks like Dr. Fauci or others, I do believe that the vaccine is safe. I have taken it, Fleet's taken it, we're immunized, right? Both vaccines, we had the Pfizer, but as we look across the vaccines that are available now, we believe they're safe. Everyone in my family has taken it, from my youngest child to my, who's a nurse, okay, to my 86-year-old father. And that doesn't mean, that's not the compelling reason that your shipmates should, but I believe that the body of evidence is out there to support it being safe. And I really do think that it comes down to risk to force, risk to mission. And it's about keeping them safe, their families, and their shipmates. Now, regardless of whether they take the vaccine or not, if you're in the military, then we're responsible for your health care, okay? And then once you get out and through the VA is still responsible for that. And so, sometimes we'll hear, if something does come up where we find out down the road that there was an issue with the vaccine, will I be covered? Of course, sailors would be covered. We don't anticipate that. Conversely, I don't think that there would be the circumstance you mentioned where if someone deferred taking it, declined, that then we'd say, no, we're not going to treat you, but, for whatever ailment you have. But I would ask folks to thoughtfully reconsider if they have declined the vaccine. But I do understand that it's their decision. I'll mention one last thing. In one of the bits of news last night that I listened to is that there's a new variant that's out there. The danger, we have about 65% of the adult population in the United States that's gotten one dose of the vaccine. And so to kind of, the way you prevent variations and mutations, right, is by having more folks that are protected. And there's a real concern now as we're looking at a new variant called the Delta variant. About 10% of the cases now are Delta variant. It's more resistive. It's still, the vaccine still works there, but there is a danger that as you get those variations, that it becomes harder and harder. So the way to try and keep all of us safe is to get more folks vaccinated and then immunized. And so that would be my answer. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
I
and thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, team, our next question comes from social media. An unidentified sailor from USS Kearsarge. I wish they would have given us a name because this is a great question. They write, we still train the ship and not the crew. Half of the crews that go through the training phase will not be present for deployment despite the command getting certified for deployment. What's the point if the knowledge base leaves when you need it? Shouldn't PRDs align so that sailors will stay with the command through the training phases and make deployment? Great question. Over to you both.
Yeah. So I will tell you that when we went to OFRP the optimized fleet response plan, that was one of the things we looked at was, do you hold an entire crew on board for this segment, and then they go, there's all kinds of second, third order effects to doing that, in addition to the fact that becomes hard as you look at both ships, folks' careers, right? It's not very conducive, enlisted or officer, as you look at some career planning. And so for many different reasons that we could go into, but it's probably longer than you want, the Navy said, we're not going to do it that way. But what we are going to do is make sure that as we look at your watch team replacement plan, as we look at forming and training and certifying, as we look at the manning levels that we keep, and the ability for commands to roll in on the team in Millington to say, hey, I need Petty Officer Koshofer or Lieutenant Nowell to stay through the deployment. I promise you we do operational detailing. We do it every single day. So there is an opportunity to do that. However, the command has to be involved in it. That's sort of a Cliff Notes version of why we looked at what you're talking about, but it's not a path that the Navy thought was the best path to go down.
Fleet K, anything on that from you?
No, as long as we have the right certified and qualified watch standards to deploy the ships, we don't want to be locked into the situation where every person has to stay for the duration. We want commands to have that flexibility. It's a big Navy. There's a lot going on. We may want to cross-deck some talent. We may have excess talent or excess NECs on board a command working up for deployment. So we're going to redistribute. But to your point, the core group ought to be going through all of the phases together, and we're working to make sure that manpower, that manning, gets there earlier in the training phase, so they will be all together through the deployment. So the devil's in the details there, command by command. We do work at it to ensure that core group stays together. That's part of readiness, but perhaps there's something else going on there that we ought to take a look at, sir.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. We're getting a lot of questions, a lot of comments on social media. Let's toss back to the social media lounge, the feedback desk. Lene, MC1 Legazzo, MC2 Molinex, both all standing by. What are we seeing online here?
Well, definitely a lot of questions coming in, not just on the live feed, but also in our direct messages. And I have to say, we were all just, looking through the comments, and you really got everybody's attention when you mentioned beards a little bit ago. So a lot of the comments are about that. When are you going to talk about it? What's going to be the answer? A lot of speculation going on. So that's the buzz right now on our social media feed with that particular topic.
Yeah, and there's definitely been a lot of relevant information and updates we've had so far. And it's been a great town hall, but as we continue to monitor the social media feed, for me, one of the most important things is family, right? And, we as a Navy rely heavily on family life. Me being a husband, being a dad, hashtag girl dad, right? That's a big thing right now. I'm constantly, thinking about pay, thinking about BAH, in particular, and it's something I'm constantly interested in. And one of the questions I got here on direct message is from YN1 Ashley Renee Laird from USS Cowpens, and it's asking, I want to ask you, why are the requirements to receive dependent BAH for unmarried parents still different for men and women? As a woman, I simply have to bring the birth certificate and update my page 2. But males are required to have custody papers to prove that they have the child, even if he and the mother live together. Seems pretty sexist to assume all men are deadbeat dads.
Interesting question. Let's go to the panel here for that one.
Yeah, well, I hope that that's not the case, and we don't consider that all dads are deadbeat dads. It's really that the paperwork is easier. If your name is on the birth certificate, that is kind of the proof of initial proof of dependency, and that's easy. So if you're a husband, a father, or someone, and your name is on the birth certificate, even if you're not married, you walk in with proof of you're on the birth certificate, there's my connection or dependency, and that's how we file the paperwork. So if there's more to it than that, we're going to have to take a look at it. maybe we do need to take a step back, look at the policy. Is it being fairly applied? Do we require too much burden of proof or not? If that's the way it's being interpreted, that's certainly not the way it's intended.
Yeah.
CNP?
No, I think that's the case. Anything you know, when you talk about pay, right? It's it's audited. We got to make sure it's right. And so in general, that means that when you think about things like dependents and so what BAH should we be paying to those sailors? Are they co-located? You know, is there? So I think it's reasonable to say that you got to provide proof that you're the parent. But like Fleet said, we do that for the mother and the dad, right? There's no different, and it has nothing to do with the being married or not. It's all about, okay, now I get it. You're the parent of that child, and now let's talk about what are the circumstances so we then get that pay right, and that's where we're doing a lot of work to try and streamline that for you. But I appreciate you speaking out on behalf of dads.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you very much for that. When we come back, let's consider this the lightning round. CNP and Fleet are going to answer questions on BAH, dependents, PCS orders, beards, and take another question from our live studio audience. And while we go to break, how about you going to the Navy App Locker and downloading the new and improved PRT app, Navy Cool app, the MyPCS mobile app, the Navy Uniform app, and my favorite, the MyNavy Family app. Whatever you need, yep, there's an app for it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You stole your line.
There's an app for that.
The MyPCS mobile app is changing the way sailors experience a PCS move. MyPCS Mobile enhances the end-to-end PCS experience, providing flexibility to access permanent change of station information. This improves the sailor experience. Travel becomes streamlined by utilizing the digital travel voucher, consolidating travel entitlement processes. The MyPCS mobile app simplifies past processes and enables sailors and their families the ease of knowing that PCS transfer information is accessible at all times. Accessing lien orders. Sailors are accessing essential information to best execute their primary change of station. Having available access on any mobile device, along with traditional desktop access, means the sailor experience is up to date and current with other Navy apps. MyPCS Mobile can be found in the Navy App Locker to support Apple and Android devices. For more information, visit the links below.
Why choose forward deployed duty? Serving overseas is a proven way to supercharge your career. Sailors serving overseas advance at a higher rate than the rest of the Navy. Sailors may also be eligible for extra pay. For more information, contact your command career counselor. Have you heard? There is a great way to stay informed about what's going on around the fleet, whether you're on shore or sea duty. The Chief of Naval Personnel has a periodic newsletter called the Sailor to Sailor Newsletter. It discusses a range of information from hot topics to support for our personnel to stories about sailors across the fleet and much more. For more information, check out MyNavy HR.
Welcome back. Thunderous applause from our studio audience. There we go. Well, we have a lot to cover in this segment, so let's get right to our next question. It's about BAH and Fleet K. This question is from MC3 Cody Hammett, and it's for you.
My name is HM3 Cody Hammett at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Today, my question is going to be about pay. I came from a low-cost living area in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, to a high-cost living area in Bethesda, Maryland. The pay difference in BAH was significant, meaning I was paying out of pocket for several months before my pay and my BAH kicked in due to delays in PERS and things of the sorts. Are there any tools or recommendations you may have to make this transition smoother for future sailors and their families?
Fleet K, over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And First, I'd say the tools and the advice is not for you, the sailor, it's for us. All of that could be avoided if we could promptly get you gained and get your BAH started in your new location, then you wouldn't have had that problem in the first place. So really, it's more on us to get that gain done as quickly as humanly possible, and then get that BAH started as that next transaction. And we are working extremely hard to close those timelines or shorten those timelines right now. If in the event that we end up taking a little bit too long there and you end up in financial distress, then just bring that to your chain of command. Let us go to work on that with the tools that we have. Short of going to Navy and Marine Corps relief, we got some other options that we can explore. But every scenario is so unique. I'd just say we need to do a better job getting your BAH turned on, especially when you're going low cost to high cost. And we should have done better. We will do better. That's the bottom line.
CNP, you are a huge advocate of our Navy spouses and our Navy families. Matter of fact, every time you record a video, you always make a special note to end it by thanking not just the sailors, but the families for their service and sacrifice. So I'd like to really direct this next question to you. It deals with dependents, and it's from PS2 Zachary Kerr and a problem that he's identified.
Hello, my name is PS2 Zachary Kerr. My question has to do with pay and dependency applications. Here at NMR and TC Bethesda, we struggle each and every day with getting service members' dependency applications approved in a timely manner and without financial hardship occurring for the service member. My question to you is, what is the Navy doing to streamline the dependency application process to prevent this from happening?
Yeah. Thanks. So the one thing that we're trying to do, and we've talked about this, I think, in a couple of the other answers, is one, we're trying to make more where it's self-service, where you can get in there and help do it. Two, we're trying to make sure that we're giving your CPPAs the tools they need, one, the training they need, and then the tools to help enable them to help you get your paperwork in for that more quickly. And then as you look at the two contact centers as part of the MyNavy Career Center construct, Little Creek and Millington, how can we push more down to the agent level on that watch floor to get done on the spot? And then we're modernizing our systems. We've talked about Navy personnel and pay, NP2, but to go ahead and make sure that that is more agile as we look at how that all kind of links together to get what you're talking about, PS2, which is better HR service delivery. Fleet, anything to add?
Yeah, we did have a hiccup. I think Red DA, we actually had some challenges and some workarounds on that. That's back online working as it should. That should help a little bit. But again, that gets replaced with MyNavy Relationships. That's bolted right into NP2. That'll be very helpful. But as of today, what you reported was you're having a problem with this day in and day out. So I just want to start elevating that up the chain of command into somebody, CPPA pro cell to pro cell. If that doesn't work, then we start engaging with other leaders to help out to take care of that problem. We can do better today with the tools that we have. Just need to get the right people engaged, find out what the obstacle there is to processing those in a timely manner. So please don't suffer in silence. Bring it up the chain of command. Let us get engaged to solve that problem. And I'm not going to go back to the cavalry's actually on the hill in the form of NP2 and an improved system. We don't need that. We can actually get your pay right today working together. So.
Fleet K, we just wrapped up a special month of content on the MyNavy HR Facebook page. That content was designed to help the sailors and their families as they PCS. We're now in the peak of PCS season. And if you didn't see any of that content, just scroll down. This question comes via social media from Cliff Brown. And Cliff Brown writes, well, let's go ahead and put the graphic up there. Sailors transferring in July still don't have PCS orders if they have a school in transit. It has been blamed on a lack of training dollars, and sailors have tried to get letters of intent from NPC without success. Is anything being done to address the major impact of Navy families by holding orders less than a month before a sailor is slated to PCS? So Fleet, over to you, but I know that CNP is chomping at the bit to chime in on this.
Yeah,
one.
We've covered some of this, right? We want 6 months or more orders lead time. We've been averaging about 4. We dipped down into the 3 range recently, and we started looking for some workarounds. Can we send you out to the school without a line of funding attached, get you moving, give you the set of orders to go set up moves, etc.? We've detected just very recently, got a couple challenges there. You're reporting sailor imminent transfer. Our team at NPC acknowledges that. We've got funding back in place to push us out to about the 3-month. Anybody that's affected by that right now, we're going to work with you case by case. If you are transfer imminent and you haven't had the time to set up the household goods, we're going to look at 2 options. We're either going to send you out to that initial training block and bring you back and give you time to sort out the household good moves and do that, or we're going to look at doing an ORD mod and pushing out your transfer date, because we just don't want to put you in the position that we have because we had a funding shortfall. And I think CNP can talk to kind of where that funding shortfall came from, but we got a plan to get you out of that scenario. Again, push this up the chain. We acknowledge the issue, and we've got some workarounds to help you out here.
Yeah, let me, and so on that funding shortfall, and I want to make this not too long-winded, but the issue is, as we looked at COVID, as we looked at the impact on training tracks, as we look at the necessity of doing some ROM, where we had some backlogs and getting folks through, that impacted what we had planned to pay for those training pipelines. So that's, when they start talking about the training dollars, that's what they're talking about. This is a whole of fleet effort. We have a lot of 3 and 4 stars that are working together to get after this. You know, because again, we'd not anticipated the impacts in 20 with respect to COVID that bow waved into 21. And so as Fleet said, we've identified some additional resources. We've applied that. We are at about a 3-month average PCS time. One of our shipmates in the audience who's going overseas said, hey, what should I expect? And our goal, again, is 6 months orders lead time. And I think that what you'll see as we get through the summer into the fall is you'll see us coming back up from about 3, which is unacceptable, okay? I'm telling you that up front, to somewhere around 5-ish as we get toward the end of the calendar year. And then what we'll try and do with FY22 is then really get back onto that. We're going to give you 6 months lead time. But every case is a little specific, and, you know, to Fleet's point, it's commander's business to take care of our sailors. And so please, if you have unique circumstances and, you know, where you're working it via the CPPA and the ProCell and all that, get the chain of command involved, because it's as easy as a phone call to get the right set of eyeballs. We don't want to do that at volume, but we certainly want to do that so that someone isn't suffering in silence.
I'm going to call an audible to our guys in the control room. I was going to go to the feedback desk, but let's go to them after I ask the next question, and that's the beard question. Yep. And then we'll check in with the feedback desk on what they're hearing from your response here. But this has been something, this is our 3rd live town hall that we've done, and beards has been an issue at every single one of them. Let's just go right to it, sir. Your thought on beards.
Yeah, hey, let me just, and I will tell you, gang, the stance has not changed that much on beards, and it hasn't, and I'm just going to be up front with you, and I get it. I've told you in the last town hall, Lieutenant John Nowell III keeps coming to me and saying, Dad, when are we going to get beards? And my answer to him and to you is that at sea, the issue is it's not safe. The Naval Safety Center has looked at it. They've studied it. When you look at what you need to do for scuba gear, right, your self-contained breathing apparatus or gas mask, and I think what happened on the Bonner-Machard put a fine point on it. No one expected that we'd be fighting that fire for 4 days, and trust me when I tell you that our sailors performed magnificently, but the folks that were walking down the pier from all those other ships, many in maintenance upkeeps, right, they didn't know that they were going to need to put on scubas to go in and fight fires in 1,200-degree heat. That's what they had to do, and if they had had beards, then they would not have gotten a proper seal. So at sea, we're pretty hard and fast. Now, I get it that we have, you know, waivers for PFB, we have waivers for some religious accommodations. That doesn't mean, though, that we're not looking at it ashore. And I will share with you that the Secretary of the Navy directed a departmental review of grooming standards. Beards are part of that. It's about a 60-day sprint. And quite frankly, I don't want to get ahead of that, but that's looking at both the Navy and the Marine Corps at what should, as you look at those grooming standards, what will the Secretary of the Navy want to dictate as a whole? But so that's kind of where the beard piece is. I'm telling you, I'm trying to be very, very frank. We hear you. We know that there is great interest in beards. And so the at-sea piece, I think, is a line that we don't want to cross. And again, departmentally, how we might tackle that ashore is being looked at. More to follow there.
Before we go to Lene, I know that Lene, if I were to ask her what kind of feedback are we getting right now, and I know that she's getting people who are saying, but this foreign Navy has beards and that foreign Navy has beards. Would you like to address the topic of foreign navies who have beards?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I would say that different foreign navies have different rules. Sometimes I find that sailors, when they cite that, don't exactly know who in that foreign navy is allowed to have a beard and when. But I'll just be very blunt. My job is not to keep sailors in foreign navies safe. It's to keep you safe. And I'm not contesting that King Edward looked pretty good in a beard, okay? So to me, it's not about good order and discipline. I think we can have good order and discipline and you can be wearing a beard. But I think that to have a breathing apparatus around your face if you're fighting 1,200 degree flames, I think you need to be clean shaven or as close to it as possible. I will also say I always get, but all those firefighters, and that is absolute myth, folklore, and legend. We have checked that and checked it twice, and there are no fire departments that allow their firefighters to have beards. They do have mustaches, just like we can have in the Navy, but all those firemen that you see on calendars, I promise you, they do not have beards in fire stations.
All right,
that'll
so
probably get me into Navy ties again, won't it?
I promise I've been in your office. There is not one hanging up in your office there, CNP. Let's go ahead and check in with Lene and see what the feedback is on this topic of beards.
Yeah, definitely a lot of feedback on that. One thing that you guys can rest assured about is that sailors are not only listening to your answers, but they are commenting in our comment section on our live Facebook page. And also what's happening is there's a dialogue, not just about this topic, but all the other topics as well. So a lot of comments, a lot of talking between each other, but definitely listening closely to CNP's answer on this. I'm going to toss it over to MC1. And it's interesting, just one other quick point I want to make. As these questions are coming in, CNP was touching on some of these questions that were coming up. For example, this one here that you saw just a second ago.
Right, Lauren, I'm gonna butcher this name. Lauren Ains basically says, has the Navy Safety Center collaborated with major municipal fire departments? And CNP just touched on that, just answered it, and it's very organic flow here. And beards, from what I understand, right, have always been a safety issue, but there's a real medical aspect to it. And I've served with sailors that can relate to that. I'm interested in beards, but sailors are resilient, right? And we love to win, and I think sailors just want to win on this topic.
It is interesting just hearing all these observations as a civilian, but Commander Hecht, as you pointed out, as CNP was answering these questions, you listed the things that they were going to come back with and say, what about this, what about that? So it was really informative for CNP to go over the reasons that we know sailors are going to bring up. And MC2, if you could share a little perspective too, obviously this is a hot topic, one that we often see. Doesn't matter really what we post on the MyNavy HR Facebook page or Instagram page, somehow inevitably there's always a comment in there. What about beards? Just even if it has nothing to do with it. So definitely a big topic of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, this comes up all the time. I expect when we're back here for the next town hall, we'll probably be answering this question again. Who knows if new information or anything will change anything? Doesn't feel likely. But I did have a question from somebody in our comments, probably for Fleet K. They're looking for a MyNavy beard app now, so
Right.
you want to get them started on that.
Is there an app for that?
Just to reiterate the answers, you know.
A healthy sense of humor needs to be part of our culture of excellence.
There you go.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, feedback team. Appreciate that. All right. We have another question from our studio audience member, and go ahead and tell us your name and what command you're with.
Good afternoon, sir, Fleet. My name is Chief Durant. I am an activated CELRES sailor serving as the Joint Intelligence Director at Senior Enlisted Leader at Joint Force Headquarters DoD Information Network. Over the last year, CELRES has stepped up to answer the call for a number of causes, especially related to COVID response. As CNR has put it, we need to be ready to fight tonight as reservists. One of the things that I've witnessed take place as I source and help people answer that call and step up, especially for shorter term orders, 90 to 180 day type orders where they're responding to specific progress, or to specific projects, is that they're experiencing pay issues, BAH issues, a lot of these things that we've talked about today regarding, I think it's called NP2. And this includes some of our active component counterparts not having the training necessary to help us access the right chains of command and things like that. As NP2 rolls out, will we see that our CELRES sailors and FTS sailors and active component sailors, especially the PSs, CPPAs, and YNs, are getting the same training so that they can help both types of sailors, especially those who are answering the call, like IS-1 has answered the call for medium to long activations?
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's a great question. Thanks for what you're doing here. Thanks for that. And so you hit the nail on the head, though. NP2 is going to be the first integrated pay and personnel system for active and reserve, which means that they won't have to understand. There'll be some differences, right? But not the way they are now, where it's radically different in the way that we do that pay. We have a training plan that we have laid out, and so the promise that I'm giving sailors, right, is that we won't field NP2 until DFAS, right, which is the independent validator that it's ready to pay sailors accurately, says good to go. And they may say, hey, we want you to run a few more pay cycles to go ahead and make sure that it's good to go. And if that's the case, we'll run a few more pay cycles, okay? And that may back it up a little bit, but right now we're still on track there. And we will not go live unless we feel like our CPPAs are trained up and they're ready to go, both for the active component and the reserve component. Two other things I'd mention there. One is that we co-located our TSC, that's a Center of Excellence for Reserve Matters, in Norfolk, so that it's in the same place as the commander of the Naval Reserve Force, right? Not CNR, but CNRFC. And that was to get that synergy as those commands look at it, because we know, despite everything we're saying, that issues will, come up, and there's ways to do it where you roll into the MNCC, et cetera. And then there's some where commanders, whether they're senior enlisted leaders, whether they're COs, OICs, may need to pick up a phone and say, hey, we've got a glitch here that we'd not anticipated, and either it's individual or I'm seeing a group. And we've had some of those, as you may well know, when you look at where we have mobilized big batches of reserve sailors, like for Surge Main or for the medical mobilization. And then because it's really expensive, the mission has ended before folks thought, and then Navy said, wow, got to save that money, do it right, but do it as quickly as possible. We learned a lot there, and we've applied those lessons learned. So it's kind of a whole approach, but NP2 is really the answer where it's not different pay systems that a poor CPPA, active or reserve, is having to learn. Does that make sense, Chief?
Yes, it does, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The single most complicated pay or personnel transaction that we have in the is mobilizing or demobilizing reservists.
Yeah.
And so because we didn't do so well in the first demo earlier during COVID, in our first go-around, as we're demobilizing the surge main workforce right now, we have down to the individual claim attention sort of at the 2-star level from NPC, and our team's laser focused to make up for that, get it right the first time going forward. But nobody is more excited about MP2 than the Naval Reserve Force commander and his Force Master Chief. I think, no kidding, in their headquarters they have a countdown clock to when we hit, because it's going to take this from doing calculus, which is the level of complexity based on the systems, down to business math. So we're all anxious, and we value our reserve shipmates. It sure doesn't look like it when you gack up that many pay transactions. So,
all right,
got your back, Jermaine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fleet.
Thank you for that live question. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned. When we come back with our final segment, we'll have more of your questions and comments. But before we go to break, I want to remind all of you out there watching, we've had a lot of fun, but if you are having problems with stress or anxiety, your shipmates always have your back. But if you feel you need to talk to a trained professional, to talk to someone, whether it be via a call, an email, or a text, on the screen is contact information for the Veterans Crisis Line. Do not delay. Reach out, get help, because help is available for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
How long for this one, Dave?
2 minutes.
MyNavy Career Center, or MNCC Contact Center, is a 24/7 human resources HR delivery service.
Can I place you on a brief hold while I research this information for you?
We provide a resource where sailors can contact us to address and help them get any number of inquiries and career-related issues answered and resolved. Our top issues that sailors contact us have to do with pay, promotion and advancement, and also retirements. And if we can help make things better for a sailor in terms of all their administrative and HR concerns, then I think we're more likely to have a satisfied sailor. We are here as an MNCC to really help sailors take care of their urgent HR issues so they can take their precious time and really focus it on readiness, warfighting, and work-life balance.
Being a recruit division commander is challenging but rewarding and offers a number of professional leadership and career advancement opportunities. To be in RDC, you have to be able to perform at the highest level mentally, emotionally, and physically. We are the ones who have to demonstrate superior leadership and motivational skills in demanding and unique situations. Mental toughness is key for this shore duty. If you can meet these standards, join us.
Hello, I'm Lene Burns. Join us on Facebook 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for some news you can use. Find out first about policy changes that directly impact you, your career, and your family. You can find us on Facebook and AFN.
Navy Recruiting Command is searching for candidates to join in the recruiting mission. Commands around the world need skilled men and women to stand the watch and take the place of those who've served. Being a recruiter has its benefits, like additional recruiting pay, numerous promotion opportunities from auto advancement E4 to E5, and meritorious advancement up to E7. Recruiters are also able to work close to their hometowns, and in some areas can earn 12 months of sea duty credit. If you're interested, talk to your detailer to become a recruiter today.
And welcome back, everyone. We have 3 final questions for CNP and Fleet K. No one can dispute that we have got some great sailors across the Navy, the best in the world. And here comes CNP and Fleet K back into position. So the next question that we have comes to us in regards to Officer Candidate School. It's a question for you, CNP. And so let's go ahead and roll the tape.
My name is HM3 Alejandra Ramirez Alarcón, and I work at the Navy Warrior Transition Company. I have a question regarding conditional release. Are there any ways that I could receive a commission or attend officer candidate school before the end of my enlisted contract?
Go ahead, CNP.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I'm excited to hear that. In fact, I was talking to an HM just yesterday afternoon that my dentist referred to me, who is a dental tech and who wants to be a SWO, which of course I like as a surface warfare officer. And so I was actually doing an interview to write him a letter of recommendation. And so he's going to do exactly what you just described, right? He's going to apply for the board. He's got to be selected by the board. But then as we look at, does it make sense to do a conditional release to take you from being in the Navy to going in the Navy? That makes a lot of sense, all right? So let's talk a little bit, though, about conditional releases and how does that work. Let me put it in context for you. We've just gone from what we are calling a growth period where we grew about 23,000 billets in the U.S. Navy as we looked at, growing the force structure and to buy more of the requirement at sea. And we're doing a pretty good job at getting folks into those. But as we were doing that, we really put a hold on folks getting out early to do things like, hey, I've now been accepted in this college and I want to end my contract early and start my follow on to the Navy career. Hey, it's not that we were not very excited about that kind of opportunity, but because we needed every person that had signed a contract, it's very expensive to train sailors, to bring you in, and then if you leave early, that's going to cause a gap somewhere. Quite frankly, we said we're not going to do that if the issue is now I want to start, now I want to start school. And oh, by the way, I didn't tell you guys about it, but I need to leave in 2 months. I don't want that to sound too negative, but we got a lot of those, right? And so it's not that we're inhumane, but the needs of the Navy were, hey, we need to keep you on that ship, on that boat, in that squadron, here at Fort Meade. So even then, but especially now, as we have a little bit more latitude, as we're looking at sort of leveling off what we think our end strength is going to be, if it's something where you say, I want to do what you described, which is I'd like to pursue an officer commissioning path in the Navy, we're absolutely going to want to lean into that with you. And the more lead time we have to do it to prevent a gap at your current command, the better. If it's to do something, we have folks who say, I want to be a warrant officer in the Army and fly helicopters, right? I would encourage you to look at the Navy first. But we see those kinds. And so if it's something that benefits another service or even the government, think one of our agencies, then we really look at most of those pretty favorably. And now if it comes down to I'm just ready to leave sooner rather than later, then quite frankly, we take a look at the circumstances. Our sailors sign contracts and we need our sailors. And again, we spend a lot of money on the training. And it's not that we're unwilling to entertain that. I will tell you the more lead time that we have for that, the better. And as we look at right sizing in some communities, we are doing some gentle force shaping. What you guys should understand that means is that there are some ratings that as we grew the Navy quickly, we now need to balance out the number of sailors in those ratings. So we're going to encourage some to go ahead and convert. We'd prefer it to be a voluntary conversion, right? Not a forced conversion. But there may be some limited opportunity for some conditional releases there too. But we do look at the commands and how supportable that is. But there are a lot of paths to get there. I'm excited for what you've described that you want to do. And I get personally involved with a lot of sailors who want to do that. I don't think anybody makes a better officer than someone who is a prior enlisted sailor. I'll just say it very plainly.
Fleet K, the next question is for you as a submariner. This next one is right up your alley. It comes from a young sailor from Submarine Group 7 looking for some career advice.
Oh,
Outstanding.
Admiral, my name is YNS-2 Joshua Roberts here at Commander Submarine Group 7 in Yokosuka, Japan. My question is this. Submarine qualified personnel have a difficult time successfully converting to FTS or even a new rate. If I still want to remain in the Navy and serve my country, request one, my only option seems to be getting entirely out of the military and hoping I can get back in a timely manner.
Well, thanks, Pastor Roberts. Yeah, I guess it feels a little bit like you joined the mafia and you're going to have to fake your own death or go into the witness protection program to get out. But yeah, I'll borrow some of the words that CNP used. You're right, we don't take that lightly. You know, we spend a lot of money in recruiting efforts and training efforts and development work, and we get somebody to your level as a YNS-2. You know, as a journeyman, becoming an expert in your field, we don't want to lose that talent, and we've got to be able to replace that. So we try to hold you to that contract. You know, it wasn't a tryout with the team. You're on the team, and if you leave, we got to replace you, and it's another substantial investment to recruit, train, and develop somebody to the level that you're at today. But here's what I really recommend that you do. We answer correspondence in like, so to speak. You ask informally, you get an informal answer. It's easy for people to say no. You make clear what your intentions are and what you want to do, and you put it in writing. And you put the ball in our court to answer you in kind with like correspondence. Letters get answered with letters, formality with formality. Tell us what you want to do, why you want to do it, and be a top performer. Let us see that talent. You know, force our hand to look at you and say, although you don't want to be a YN on a submarine, you're a damn good sailor. And we're likely to try to find avenues to keep you on this team in the Navy and that. So perform as well as you can, make a formal request, decide what you want to do, and force our hand to evaluate that talent. And that would be kind of the recommendation. I don't recommend faking your own death. Okay.
All right, very good. CNP, you have survived. Fleet K, you have survived. We're down to our last town hall question. We just heard from a sailor seeking career advice from the submarine community. Our next question comes from the Net Warcom Sailor of the Year, asking for some career advice for his community. And we go live back down to Norfolk for the last time. IT1 Kevin Flansburgh joins us live from Norfolk. And first and foremost, congratulations, Sailor of the Year. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, so you've got a question for CNP. Let's hear it.
Yes, good morning, sir. My question is, with the growing demand for cyber professionals everywhere, what is the Navy planning to do to compete with the civilian sector and keep top cyber talent in its ranks?
Yeah, that is a great question. Incidentally, Fleet and I were at Corey Station about 3 weeks ago, looking at how we're doing the offensive and defensive training. It's pretty eye-watering what's going on there. So one, we know that it's hard to find folks like you. It's hard to keep you, and therefore we have to incentivize it. So we're going to use the normal incentivization tools that you're used to, things like SRBs, like SDAP, like SDIP, assignment incentive pay. We're looking at, with this detailing marketplace, what are other non-monetary incentives? And then we're also looking at how are we organized. Let me give you an example. For the first time since Vietnam, we created the Cyber Warrant 1. First time we had a Warrant 1 since Vietnam, and that's all about E5s that can come directly in who want to sit in a dark room and do nasty things to people we don't like, okay, or help defend us against that. And we get about an extra 6 years out of those kinds of individuals. And oh, by the way, it's a huge bump up in pay going from E5 to Warrant 1. So that's a creative way that we're looking at using some of the authorities that we've got. And frankly, the community is looking at, are we organized properly? We know that the next war could start and end in the cyberspace. And so we've got to be ready nationally, militarily, and then within the Navy. So we're working pretty hard at it.
CNP, we only have about 1:30 left. Would you and Fleet K like to just make any last remarks?
Yeah, and so I'm not good at quick, so I'm going to take my card that I wrote on the way over. First is, thank you again. Over 100 ships underway the whole time amidst COVID around the globe. You're making us proud. And those 100 ships underway, some folks are on the ships, some are here in Fort Meade, some are in Arlington, Virginia. Across the fleet, that's what it takes to get the job done, and you've done it magnificently. Thank you and your families for your service and sacrifice. I hope you're taking that we are serious about delivering better HR service. We are telling you up front that we're not there yet. We're telling you up front that your feedback is going to be important. Take us up on that. And it is about better talent management, and that is critical as we look at great power competition. Culture of excellence, understand it, be part of it. Shipmates taking care of shipmates, taking care of yourself. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, warfighting readiness, and it's really important. Fleet.
Yeah, yes, sir. Everything that we're doing to support you is in keeping with that culture of excellence, right? We're striving for better. We are striving for excellence, not settling for compliance. We are continuously learning. We are trying to continuously improve these processes to make things better for you, and we are driving for a radically inclusive Navy across the globe. That's what we're committed to. And in this warfighting effort, our contribution as MyNavy HR is making these simple things simple so that you have time to focus on the more important stuff, learning your trade, taking care of your families, and being ready to fight when called. So we need your feedback. Don't suffer in silence. Push things up your chain of command. Best ideas come from the deck plate. Let us know what you think, and we'll try to roll that into our plans.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Thank you, shipmates, for tuning in and all your great questions and all your great comments. I'm Commander Dave Heck from MyNavy HR. Tune in next week when I'll be hosting Jeopardy! Remember, if you want to be the first to know on the MyNavy News HR website, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you're going to find all the news, and you're going to find it first. Studio audience, thank you very much. Take us out with a round of applause. Thanks, everybody.